with us a real figurehead in orchestra conduction, a real maestro who has conducted orchestras around the world, not only in Portugal, but also around the world. And someone who has the sort of experience that I think is really much needed in this group of people. So we always have artists, we have technologists, we have developers, but we never have an orchestra conductor. We have people who develop technologies for orchestra conductors as well. And so we are really privileged to have Martim Sousa Tavares with us. And also I have listened to his talks online and I'm hugely inspired, so I hope you will be too. So I'll leave the floor to Martim.
Thank you, Michaela. Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's a real privilege to be here, and it's kind of overwhelming to witness presentations that are so tech-savvy and subjects that I personally think that I don't have enough schooling to grasp. I'm a musician, yes. I don't know if the youngest person in the room, but probably the one who works with the most offline field possible in music, which is classical music, which is perceived as the old music, music from centuries past, music written by composers who never had a profile on anything else other than their faces. But it actually isn't so. We aren't that excluded from the technology world. And I think that maybe from the top of my experience at 29 years old, I can maybe give you a few glimpses of what might really matter regarding what we are doing, considering what has passed, considering these past centuries. So the first thing is, what is a classical music dude doing in a tech convention full of tech dudes? Well, classical music has been in a relationship with technology ever since it exists. It's a fact. Because if we perceive technology as not only the devices that you plug in and that have Wi-Fi, but as a struggle of man to have better tools, better utensils to make music, then it's been around since ever. Since the first caveman ever picked up a bone and made holes in it and created a flute, that's already technology. And he used that as an instrument to produce sounds, to invent this new language which we call music, and which I think interests all of us. So it's been around since ever, and any instrument we can think of, a violin, a piano, a synthesizer, whatever, it started as something before, and it represents a quest of artists, of musicians, and of course inventors. And it is not a coincidence that we find such people such as Leonardo da Vinci making sketches for everything possible in technology, including musical instruments. He also drew some instruments himself, which he thought would answer specific quests of music. So this can just be ruled out of the way. Classical music has a relationship with technology. Maybe we aren't technology-based or technology-dependent such as other fields of music, but we have it and we use it, and we've made huge contributions for all the developments, I think, in music and technology. So the important thing, I think, as an artist is how does technology intersect with creativity? Because that caveman who made the flute out of the bone, maybe he was also a composer. You know, maybe he did that on the bone because he wanted to create specific music. And that's very interesting to think, that he went after the tool that he was needing to make the music he felt inside him. And it's very interesting to think of other examples of where technology was leading the way and then music went after, or when musicians and composers and interpreters wanted specific things and it had to be an inventor to give it to them. I'll give you two examples. One is technology going ahead of music. We all know, or probably we do know, why pop songs have between 3 and 4 minutes each. It's because since the times of Tin Pan Alley in the 1920s, 3.5 minutes was the maximum you could record on the side of a disc. Hence, any song that is meant to be recorded and sent out there cannot be longer than 3.5 minutes. And that's why if you go to any record shop, you will find your favorite pop band putting out EPs and songs that are about 3.5 minutes. And then all artists ever since, in order to be in the recording industry, they have devised their songs with this scheme of chorus, refrain, etc., in order for them to have 3.5 minutes. And we have amazing pieces of art in sonic form of music, any band you can think of, any songwriter, etc. And this is because technology was offering that option. 3.5 minutes, that's all you get. Okay, I'll take it. I'll write music for that. So that's one example. Another example is if you look at a modern piano, there's one downstairs. You will look at an instrument that is used for any music, pop music, classical music, for fado, anything you can think of. And that instrument exists because in the 19th century, it evolved from the harpsichord, which is the grandfather of the piano. And the harpsichord had less keys, and it was a very fragile instrument. And composers like Beethoven, who were trying to express themselves. Beethoven was like kind of a heavy metal dude, you know, writing bangy music with powerful chords, and he was always smashing his own instrument. He was breaking the strings, he was breaking the keys, etc. So he asked piano makers, can you please make an instrument that will last? Because I keep breaking my own pianos, you know, like kind of like Jimi Hendrix bashing his own electric guitar. That's what Beethoven was doing, but unintentionally. So that's when piano makers realized that the instrument cannot be only made of wood. So they devised the harmonic board, which is was made of iron, and now it's made of steel. So that came as a quest of a musician trying to write specific music, and technology had to go with him. So I identify these two paths, and they are equally important. Sometimes we as artists go behind technology, sometimes we suggest the path for technology. Now, this being said, there's one thing that is extremely important, and I don't want to sound like the caveman trying to push us back 2,000 years old and saying that we have enough technology to go around, let's just focus on what's important. But this is true, and we cannot forget about this, that everything that is new today will be old soon. The computers we have, the clothes we're wearing, the spectacles I have on my face, this microphone, all of this will be useless and old in a very, very short time. So all the things we are dealing with are extremely transitory. What does not face this transition of time, which is very cruel, you know, because there are amazing projects and things that we believe in that maybe in 5 years they'll be obsolete, and there's nothing we can do about it. That's the cruel thing about technology. But one thing will remain, which is the content of what we are doing, because technology per se is not the goal. Technology is a means to achieve a goal. This is fairly obvious to everyone. Either we are working with just producing music that will be listened to, or working, as Antonio was showing us, with therapists and art therapy and etc. Technology is always the means we use. And this is important because we cannot forget about content, about what we really are doing. And in music, this is particularly important because music is it's a language system. It has its own syntax, it has its own words, which is notes, which is sounds. And as a language, it is a system to convey meanings. And that's what we do. And I'm sorry if I'm pushing this too much into the music realm and maybe out of therapy, etc. I apologize for that. But music is a language system. And as a language, it must have a content. It must have a message. Otherwise, it's a vacuum of words. It's just a blob. It's something that is senseless. And this is what I find so important. And many times when I'm talking with friend composers who are very out there experimenting with technology, and stuff like that, I always ask what is the content of what they're doing. And fairly often I realize that what they're most interested in is actually the process of experimentation, which is fair. It's fair game. You can experiment and not know what you're going to get out of there. You know, Picasso did that. All great artists did that. You have to follow the path that leads into the forests in order to know that there's no way out. Maybe you will find a way out, maybe you won't. Doesn't matter. But many times I find artists that are really, really into the process and not so much about the outcome. And that's a shame, because in 5 years, the process will be gone. Everything we will have is the content that was produced. And the only thing telling us what will last and what won't within this content is what's good and what's not. Because things that aren't good, history will get rid of them. You know, it's like RAM memory. If we don't need it, we just toss it out. So with this being said, I also don't want to make myself too long here, because I know we're running behind schedule. If we perceive ourselves in a certain time frame, in a certain space frame, Portugal, 2020, month of October, we will see that there are specific issues that we are trying to address, be it environmental issues, economical issues, collective health issues, etc. And music as a language and as a form of art, if it is alive, it is in contact with its time and space. And hence, the content that it needs to produce must be in contact with its time and space. So a very easy example of how this would work out is, say, one of the most popular concerts in classical music, which I'm sure you've all have seen on television, which is televised every January 1st, directly from Vienna in Austria. It's the New Year's concert, which we all know. It's very, very popular, but it's actually an anachronistic exercise. It's a replica of a concert of the Viennese society in the late 19th century. It's exactly what it is. The musicians are dressing in 19th century fashion, and it's as if we pushed ourselves back 150 years. It's very interesting as a sort of a museology experiment, but as a means of making art meaningful for the time we are living in, it is absolutely useless. I'm sorry to sound cruel to my own means of subsistence, but it is fairly useless as a concert, as a place where we go and be in contact with our own time, where we get to know ourselves through the arts. So we, coming back to us here and now, we cannot forget about this. We don't want to be anachronistic and locked in the past. We should not, or we should aim at producing content, but in the end, it should be content that will last. And the thing making it last, I say again, is quality and its meaningless. Its meaningfulness. What does it mean to us as citizens? Does it address a particular question that we are trying to resolve as an individual, as a society, as a group of citizens trying to make the world a better place? I think music is a great way to do it. I'm sure the examples we've seen and we will continue to see all prove that music can really be leveraged for a better world. But in the end, music in itself won't make the world better. It can make individuals better and convince them to make the world better. But just playing a Beethoven symphony or a New Year's concert won't make the world a better place. But maybe a concert that is in contact with reality and what we are dealing with will make us think, and that procedure of thinking will make us look for answers, and then we might actually get our hands into something and do something. I hope this all sort of being wrapped up together like this informally had a meaning for you guys. Like Michela said, I have talked about this elsewhere in Portuguese, in English. There's other things you can find. My big struggle is really how to make classical music alive. And being here with so many people that are really rooted in the 21st century, because I see the computers you guys use, the softwares you guys deal with, they did not exist 100 years ago. And I myself, having to deal with composers who were dead 300 years ago, I struggle with this, with making my own art meaningful right now. So if you don't have that issue, you have no excuse to be doing really amazing things right now for the betterment of the world, of ourselves, of my life, of yours, and everyone else's. Thank you very much.